Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. The reason I'm pausing is I don't see. Yeah, there we go. Okay, thank you for joining us on this APPI webinar. Um, we focus on ARV consciousness and things of that sort, and we will be doing some work where you'll be able to do feedback and sessions. The topic which I'll be discussing will be time, ARV, and entanglement. Um, so I have more and more been bringing in this symbol which recognizes you acting as a precogger. Um, Ultimately, we're looking for as many precog pros as we can. APPI has quite a number of them now that are working as professionals and earning money. Um, and I'd like all of you to consider getting to that point. What it takes is having a good record, which is, mostly people are using our protocol, the we protocol, but that's not necessary. If you've got some other verifiable approach, that's fine. And one of the things that we find is so important is the Precog pros really integrate this ability into their lives. Now here's what we're going to be doing today. First, for the newbies and as review, I'll be summarizing what ARV is all about. And then we'll be talking about time, ARV, and entanglement. But something I've been putting together for a long time, I really want to put this out now in a kind of a bigger picture way where it connects up, I believe, ultimately with all of psi phenomena. That's a pretty big statement, and I'll let you judge how close this model really comes to doing that. But it is based on this statement of consciousness is fundamental, which goes back really to the scientists, it probably goes back before that, but the scientists who were working on quantum mechanics just couldn't understand what they were seeing, and many of them would say things like consciousness is fundamental, you can't get beyond consciousness. And when you really get into that, as we've been doing, I think the implications are really very, very deep and important. Now, we will be doing a feedback session, 703077, and we'll be making a new prediction today, taking it through the analysis judging. And in these APPI webinars, we're doing month plus predictions. Okay, so let's get into ARV and linear time. The ARV really is quite straightforward. What you do is you start with a remote viewing session where your task is to describe and sketch your feedback target, which you're going to see in the future. We're focusing on precognition, of course. And the reality is, and this is one of the terrific things about consciousness, is you have access to information from a distant, including distant times. We've shown this over and over. Science has shown this in reproducible experiments. So what we're doing is taking advantage of that. So the feedback session comes later in time, and that's when you see your feedback target. So your job is simply to describe and sketch that target. In between, so that we can make a practical use of this, is the judging, analysis judging session. We are focused on binary ARV predictions, which ultimately can all be put in the form of yes, no's. When you do sports predictions, you might make it over a bookie's line or under, Or for financials, it might be up and down, but you could say, will it be up? Ultimately, it's just two choices. Now, here is how we make this practical. There are two choices, yes, no. So there are two possible, note the word possible, targets which are set up in our ARV protocol. One of those targets will be associated with yes, and guess what the other target is? It's associated with no. So the actual target, what actually happens after the event. So the event is done between the analysis. Okay, so the analysis gives us a prediction so we can act on the event, wager on it, invest in it, whatever. There are other ARV applications. But we can take an action here based on, is there a good match with the yes photo versus the no photo? Because at feedback time, you will always get what actually happens. So the judge says, oh my God, look how great the association is, say, with the yes. Well, then they will make a prediction on yes. Period. Now, I'll give one more perspective on this. And this one gets to what really is the reality, especially when you look at consciousness being fundamental, that precognition, purposeful precognition, which is what we're doing, you know, deja vu, and there are other kinds of spontaneous precognition that comes in, but we're setting out to do precognition on purpose. From that perspective, it's just so clear that you can really view precognition as beginning with the feedback session, because the feedback session is where you know the truth. You know the actual target. And here is where the entanglement with the remote viewing session can have the strongest impact, if you will, in a way which I'm going to talk more about later, but in a way where you can almost view this as being outside of space and time. The truth is what you want to interact with the remote viewing session. So the begins with the feedback session. The remote viewing task, as we said, is very simple. Describe and sketch your, and we use a 6-digit number, feedback target. And that 6-digit number is associated with the feedback target that you're supposed to describe. So it's the feedback target, which is a photo site, that is a target. So I wanted to define photo site for you. People have used objects, ARV, there are a lot of different things that you can use. In our protocol, we use photo sites. Now, a photo site refers to a particular physical site location at the particular time the photo was taken. So consciousness is expected to move to that site at the time the photo was taken and describe and or sketch what can be readily verified or inferred from the photo. We're not interested in something which might be 100 yards away, because if it's not in the photo, remember the key phase of the analysis judging, it won't do the analysis judge any good. So a photo site, in its definition, includes the intention that you must have to describe and sketch what can be readily verified or inferred from the photo. So this, of course, includes anything that your nervous system, your sensory system, can pick up, because that's how you report, to generate your description. So first impression gestalts are really important, because at feedback time, when you get that picture, first thing that it's good to react to is what comes into you first. What is the big picture stuff? And then, of course, all the visuals, the sense of dimensions compared to your body, very, very big, very, very small, things like that. Sound, smells, taste, tactile sensations, emotions, etc. So that is what our targets are. They are photosite targets. Okay, so the targets of feedback photo, there are two possible targets. We've talked about them. And the actual one is the one you see at feedback. I mean, really, ARV, the idea is really quite simple. Once you just simply accept that precognition is real, that you can gather information from what we see as a linear time future. Okay, any questions, comments? Okay, good. I hope that assumes that this is clear to all of you. I know a lot of you are not new, so it is clear. Okay, let's get into now the presentation of time, ARV, and entanglement, and the implications of consciousness as fundamental. First of all, ARV is about entanglement. Entanglement in really the sense that you kind of understand it. Normal entanglement. You've got these things together. What's so interesting in ARV is that it's really outside of time and space. You're connecting the future with the present and all of that. And it's entanglement of information, not entanglement of two physical objects, but very similar. So you're entangling between your remote viewing and feedback session. Now, in linear time, as you know, it seems that these are separated. But what ARV and precognition in general show is that time, but also the thing that we seem to watch the most in time is cause and effect, are really sort of, roughly speaking, outside of time and space. Think about cause and effect for a moment. You're doing your remote viewing session now, getting information from the future when you do your feedback session. Your feedback session is really, in a real sense, causing the information that you put in your remote viewing session to happen. So cause and effect are going backwards in linear time, so to speak. Now, so there's something quite different going on than our usual linear time view of space and time. So that's what I want to get into. Now, here's a model, which is the model that I really want to connect with everything, including paranormal, psi phenomena. The blue circle there is what I'm calling the universe of collective consciousness, the UCC. And this contains everything. I don't know, it's everything in this physical world, the non-physical world, spiritual, non-physical world. I see those as being very much the same. Everything that consciousness touches in these worlds is in that blue circle, plus anything else that you could imagine. Basically, this idea of touches is the best word I know of. I mean, if consciousness has got it in any way, shape, or form, it's in that blue circle. So it's basically all that is. Everything is in there. Now you have to ignore the outer boundary. This construct, once you get that everything, all that is in this circle, there can't be an outer boundary. Because if you, in any way, shape, or form, imagine, think about, oh no, this is in that outer boundary, well, guess what? It's immediately, because it's touched your consciousness, it's in the blue circle. So the blue circle is just a representation. Now, this is sort of marvelous because this kind of implies a oneness and a kind of harmony. It's just all there. Okay, so that's the oneness of the universe, of the collective consciousness. Now, things, a thought, a desk, you are in this UCC. But from there, since you can't ever be separated from it, you really can't have a thing totally separate, there needs to be a fuzzy boundary. There has to be something which is connecting you to the UCC, because you can't be separate from it, right? That's the whole basis of the UCC, is it's got no boundary. Everything is in it. But as soon as you try to define one of those things and look at it as a separate thing, it has a fuzzy boundary. Now that happens to be what I'm calling, and what I believe is, the analogous uncertainty principle in quantum mechanics. So the uncertainty principle is one of the two keys of quantum mechanics. The other is entanglement, which we've actually already touched on, and we'll talk more about that. Now, so you're in there. Everything that you've done in your life, events in your life, getting up this morning, having breakfast, events are things, right? This moment right now is a thing. Event is just a series of things. One of the marvelous things about our conscious minds is that we can ignore things, okay? So I don't think we would want to carry around in our conscious mind every one of the past and present now moments we've had, and the future moments that we're going to have. Those are in this universe of collective consciousness as well. So we have this marvelous ability to decrease entanglement and not remember everything. But we also have the ability to increase entanglement. So let's take an example. For example, one thing in the UCC is your remote viewing session. The one we're about to do is in the UCC. Everything you can imagine is in the UCC. And so all the now moments that you do will be in, is in the UCC. So there's your remote viewing session. Well, guess what else is in your remote viewing session? The feedback session is in the remote viewing session. And that event can be not only entangled, but you can increase that entanglement. And there's actually some statements in quantum mechanics that, in terms of the physical world, they talk about being able to increase and decrease entanglement. Lots of papers on that. Well, same thing here. In your consciousness, you can increase and decrease that entanglement. And so it's like a handshake, and you can make that handshake stronger and stronger. So that's a very important concept to get. And I just want to say it another way, because the ability to increase this entanglement is the key, I think, to successful ARV. And it's not done like at the intellectual level. It's done in this UCC place and the interface between that and your conscious mind. And we're going to be talking about that. Okay, so here is the remote viewing session, your feedback session. During your feedback session, you obviously do something somewhat different from the remote viewing session, but part of it is really getting into the feedback session. So notice here I've got sort of the same tasking: describe and sketch my feedback target. Now, how does this work? Well, you've got this subconscious mind. We know everything isn't in our conscious mind. Subconscious mind does an awful lot for us. Okay, and the subconscious mind, back and forth with the remote viewing session. There's your handshake, and the entanglement, and I'm calling it entanglement energy, includes things like feelings, intentions, expectations. Notice all of these things are like informational kind of things, which are in the universe of collective consciousness. That's what connects all of this together. Your subconscious mind is connected to everything through this UCC. Okay, now I want to show you a clip which I hope will begin.
Follow that idea a little further, you'll find that QED predicts that nothing is really.
Okay, wait, I want to start.
Follow that idea a little further, you'll find that QED predicts that nothing is really something. I'll wait while you process that last sentence. Nothing is really something. So let's see what that means. We'll start by taking this box, which is filled with air. The next step is to take all the air out of it and shield it so there are no external energy fields seeping into it. With nothing inside, surely it's empty, right? Well, let's start zooming in. Maestro, can you zoom a bit? Nope, not seeing anything. Maybe a little more? This isn't getting us anywhere. Time to pull out the big guns. Maestro, can you do the quantum zoom? The image you're seeing gives you an idea of the smallest quantum reality. The flickering colors represent the constant creation and destruction of matter and antimatter. Electrons and antimatter electrons, quarks and antimatter quarks. They are created from nothing and disappear back into nothingness. We can see that when we look at what is going on at the smallest and most quantum of scales, the empty space is actually extremely busy. Scientists have a name for these effervescent subatomic objects. They are called virtual particles. There are lots of other ways to visualize this, but one way is to think of the foam on a particularly fizzy root beer. If you look closely, you can see bubbles appearing and disappearing in an ever-changing way. For this reason, some scientists call these virtual particles quantum foam.
Okay, you all heard that? Okay. That is a physical world interpretation. Oh, someone wanted it louder. I hope you were able to hear that. But that's a physical world interpretation of the 0-point energy field. Now, the 0-point energy field, this is not debated. The physicists, people who study quantum mechanics and all of that good stuff, all accept that at the smallest level, okay, what you're looking at here is multiplied by like 10 to the 35th, so small, you know, we can't imagine it. But at the very, very smallest levels, there is energy coming from what he was calling nothing, because we don't really understand where it's coming from. But the basis of the physical world is this 0-point energy field. It's like the basic foundation Okay? In terms of the physical world, you can't go any deeper. That is the basis, right? Um, mono, molecules, the atoms, the electrons, all of the fundamental particles, all of that come from here. Light comes from here. It's energy. Anything in our physical world ultimately comes from the zero-point energy field. Now they're calling it nothing. Here's where I want you to really appreciate the basic entanglements that I believe is the reality that we live in, is an entanglement with this universe of collective consciousness, which is what he is calling nothing. So the non-physical reality of the universe of collective consciousness has kind of as its interface the zero-point energy field. Here's the physical, here's the non-physical. That's the universe of collective consciousness. So the entanglement that I'm talking about now is the whole field, which you have to realize the zero-point energy field is everywhere, every time, every place in our physical universe. I don't care where you are in our physical universe. You get very, very, very small, there's the zero-point energy field. And also under that, and you know, we're showing it here as under, those words obviously fail to properly describe this, but somehow connected is the non-physical UCC reality. And so that is as fundamental as you can get, the universe of collective consciousness. Consciousness is the fundamental from here through the zero-point energy field to the physical. So if the ZPE field is the interface between the physical universe and the UCC, that means there's a fuzzy boundary with the model that I discussed before. So yes, and it's through this fuzzy boundary that all the phenomenon in the physical world indeed occur. Now, you know, the zero-point energy field is my best guess at what that fuzzy boundary is in terms of the physical objective universe. Now, quantum mechanics, general relativity models, they all work very well in here, right? All kinds of experiments. We understand the physical objective universe quite well. But there are some strange things that happen in it that aren't captured by this kind of mathematics. But most of our objective physical universe, we understand it. The mathematics and all of that works. But note, there's a lot more out here. Okay, so now, this UCC model, I'm now going to give you what I refer to as an interpretation of consciousness is fundamental. This is sort of analogous to what they do in quantum mechanics when they say a Copernicus interpretation of quantum mechanics. But none of the standard physical models ever bring up consciousness. So what we're trying to do is bring consciousness in here with the consciousness is fundamental. So I'm going to leave this over here on all of the next several graphs I show you, but I think you will pick up that what's so fantastic about what we're doing with our ARV is it is so analogous to all the other phenomena I'm going to be talking about. So I think the psi phenomenon, the paranormal phenomenon, as most other people, and I hate that term because they're not paranormal, they're actually quite normal, even though some of them may be rare. So these are the ones I want to talk about. And someone already emailed that there are others, and there are, and I think they fit in this model as well. But remote viewing, precognition, retrocausality, mental telepathy, psychokinesis, now reincarnation, souls, and ghosts. So I really want to go through these with this model as I've just described it to you and show how it's explained at the level that it's explained. No mathematics, yet there's some practical things that come out of it. Remote viewing, okay? Well, here's the remote viewer, and there's a target, and there's your entanglement, okay? The idea of maximizing this entanglement is pretty clear, and I think often that happens just naturally, like in the SRI days when they took people out to the actual target. That was a pretty good way of increasing the entanglement and the interest level and the emotions involved. So remote viewing fits in beautifully here. I mean, it's just really ARV in many ways, but let's talk now about precognition, retrocausality, which is ARV. So instead of showing it in this way, I chose to show it like this, where there's a remote viewer, there's the feedbacker. When you do self-judging or independent judging, notice that's both you. You're the person who sees the actual target, who is entangling and sharing information when you're doing your transcript as a remote viewer. Okay, so here's the precogger. So that's you. Well, precognition of events, you know, airplane crash. Some people saw 9/11. You know, couldn't do much with it, but there is good evidence that they got information about it. Well, here you are. You're a precogger. There's the event. For reasons which certainly need more investigation on how to all of this works, but clearly they were entangled when they got that information. And retrocausality is just looking at it the other way. It's looking at it from the perspective of you as the precogger, causing something earlier to happen. Just like when you're at your feedback session, you are causing earlier things to happen. So this model clearly fits very well with that perspective. But how about something like mental telepathy? Well, hey, there's typically someone you talk about as being the sender and the receiver, right? Well, I want to use this kind of graphic just to make it clear. The sender isn't using normal electromagnetic radio wave type transmission. The sender, in fact, is interacting with the UCC, as is the receiver, and that entanglement is going on through the UCC and the two fuzzy boundaries. So mental telepathy, which is now well established, both with all the twin studies, and there've actually been scientific studies, but this model, in the way it does explanation, explains this very nicely. Now, twins, for an example, I think might be a very good description of how entanglement energy might be automatically enhanced. I mean, they spend so much time together from when they're conceived, etc. And I think there might be some very important information in some of the wonderful twin stories that we have, how entanglement energy can in fact be enhanced. Let's look at psychokinesis. Psychokinesis in this model, I think is pretty straightforward. You have your PKer, the person who is doing it, And let me even say here, we usually think of PKers when psychokinesis occurs as being a person in the physical world, but there are cases where objects seem to have moved for where you can't identify the PKer. Hey, maybe it came from something in the UCC spirit. Just putting that out there. So I've just put PKer in general here, but then in terms of psychokinesis, we're always talking about something visible in the physical world. And so the entanglement through the fuzzy boundaries and the UCC can explain that. But all of the work, the setting up of these entanglements and then bringing it up through the 0-point energy field and all of that is done at the UCC level. And health, especially some of the miraculous health stuff or even normal healing, is done from the UCC. I mean, your body is connected to the UCC, right? All of your cells, each of them go down to the very small, and they get their energy ultimately from the UCC. Now, health, I think, is a very good example, and Lynn Buchanan had his model of healing with a structure, and he was very clear that he felt the healing had to start in the basement. Well, he would not use these words, but his basement is the UCC. What's going on is at the deep level of consciousness is fundamental. It starts down there. Okay. Now, I want to talk a little bit about life, and then we'll get to reincarnation. Let's talk about what life is. You're now experiencing what we can call a present time conscious now moment. What's so interesting about it, if you really try to define it, it's very difficult. In fact, probably almost impossible, because it's this consciousness experience which you have. It's coming up from this 0-point energy field through your nervous system, and here you are consciously experiencing something, and it's moving to something different, a different conscious moment. But clearly you've got a real sense of it. You've got a sense of this now moment being very different than a memory or what's going to happen a year from now. It's right now. Okay, so that's your conscious mind now moment. Well, think about it. Here and now actually misses a key point concerning consciousness. The now is primary. Sure, you're someplace else tomorrow, but you'll still have your now conscious moment. And your life is all of these conscious moments, one after another. Events in your life, and what's an event? Event is some meaningful thing that you put together. You watched the Super Bowl, for example, or you had breakfast, for example. Well, that's a bunch of nows, and it's got kind of a fuzzy boundary when it starts exactly, stuff like that. But so your life, all of these nows, all of the events are your life. Your first DNA vibration. We talk a lot about everything being vibrational. Well, think about that 0-point energy, the kind of vibrations that were going on at that very small level with the time frames that are so small you can't understand. In and out, in and out, in and out. And yet that, in a magical way, leads to the physical world and leads to you and every cell of your body having the same kind of vibration. I think that's a pretty special kind of entanglement that is going on in every moment of your life up until the physical world, your physical world death. Okay, so your physical life can be viewed this way in terms of the consciousness being fundamental, a series of now moments leading to what we can call a life story. That is your physical life story. Now, once we understand that, then let's talk about reincarnation. Everyone has a life story. Everyone that's lived in the physical world has a life story. And let's just leave it at that for now. Okay? So, reincarnation, some person's physical life is here, but guess what? There's other life stories in this UCC. And how they get entangled might very well lead one to talk about reincarnation. If you strongly experience what I'm calling another life story, that could be reincarnation. Now, it might very well be another life story from the past, okay? And you could see where you might very well say, oh, okay, so that was my life in the past. Now, in some sense, it may be, and I'll say a little bit more about that, but you understand the point. There's another whole interpretation here of reincarnation, because for reasons which I don't think we would generally understand, there is an entanglement between life stories. So it always, the person who experiences this is in the physical world, but I believe they're being entangled now with something in the UCC, which is certainly another life story. If you felt that you were reincarnated as Julius Caesar, well, there was a physical life that was Julius Caesar's. Now, what does it mean to say it was yours? Well, you can talk about that, but certainly the life in the physical world when Julius Caesar lived it is in the UCC, and that indeed might be what you were connecting with. So that's definitely a somewhat different interpretation of reincarnation, which I will put out there. Now, let's talk about souls, okay? The thing of a soul, right? It's a thing. I can think about a soul, and it has a fuzzy boundary, but it's in the UCC. It's a non-physical kind of thing when we start talking about souls. Now, these entanglements here with the soul are happening. See, this gets subtle. You'd think most of them are happening in the UCC, where your soul is. So these are the symbols for different kinds of entanglements. Here is your life story in the UCC. Okay, so these are the entanglements in there. However, as we've already discussed, your physical life in the physical world is entangled with the UCC. So your soul is directly entangled with you now in the physical world. But in addition, you have all of these entanglements of what we're calling a soul, which may not connect up with your life story here, but some of them, in fact, may. And some may be stronger than others. Your soul may have some strong attachments. Okay, again, some may not attach to your physical life, but this soul, since we know there are plenty of other souls, right? Other life stories, which could easily be, and I'm sure are, connected to other, what we would call your soul, individual souls, but there are other people's souls. And guess what? These connections are connected to these other souls, and significant events, perhaps, and stuff of interest to the soul, but the idea of entanglements happening within the UCC, and many of them connected to your particular life story, seems to make a lot of sense. So when, at least I now, think of the soul, I think of it in this way, that it's really connected to my life story, and it's my life story that's connected to a lot of other things. You can look at this in the UCC being connected this way out, but one of those things is something I want to call a soul, something which is a thing that has in the UCC a reality. Okay, so there are more of these. Now, at first you get the sense that these are like time, but in your life story, yes, you're putting things into the soul, but I think a lot of this is happening, including future things that might happen to your soul that then feed back to you in your physical life story. So cause and effect goes both ways in time and within the UCC. Okay, you know, one thing which I didn't put here is mediumship. Out of body experiences, all of those fit very nicely in here now. Once we have individual souls, we have a medium over here and can make contact with this. That's one way of looking at it. And through that can make contact with this person's parents, who might give information then all the way to back to the medium. Now, I'd like to put you in context as I like to view it with the UCC. And that is, here you are. You're in this UCC. You have a fuzzy boundary. But you're no small thing. You're connected to the universe of collective consciousness. You're connected to everything through that fuzzy boundary, which I think is like the 0-point energy field, and then the universal collective consciousness under that. So you can look at yourself as, through a type of fuzzy boundary, having access to literally everything. Now, Skip Atwater, who I think many of you know or at least heard of, he was the guy who initiated and headed the remote viewing Army unit. This is a quote from his book. Some say that we pass from spirit into the physical at birth, and conversely pass from the physical world into spirit at death. And he's using the word spirit like I use the word soul. I say that we never pass from the spirit. So that's how big all of this is. Okay, I want to pause now. Questions, comments? Okay, in fact, let me look at the chat box. But if anybody wants to, please turn on. I really would like feedback about this. So anybody want to turn on their mic, do. Hi from Southern Switzerland. Hi, Danilo. Or Catherine, I'm not sure. Okay. What is in one is in the whole, right? Louder, I'm sorry, I couldn't do that. I have changed the shape of a flame twice in my life, so I'm currently looking at what I can do cause it, and I'm getting close. Okay, very good. You know, psychokinesis, and we've had multiple examples of that at our conferences. This happens often. We did spoons. Last one we actually did a rod was bent. So PK, and there are scientific studies on PK, so there's no question it's real. Lynn Buchanan was the one who, when he discussed healing at our last conference, he has sort of a model of a building, and at the top is the person who thinks they're in charge, which is the manager. I can't remember what word he exactly used, but in fact, it all starts down at the basement. And when he was talking about health, he says that's what you have to do is clean up and start with the basement. Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay. So let's move on to doing our feedback session. So the coordinate that we're going to do is 703,077, and it again, precognition begins with the feedback session. So what we're doing now is really quite important. I think we now hopefully understand that causes can happen after their effects, and the feedback session and the remote viewing session are the perfect example of that. But in linear time, this is the way the model, and this is the one we're going to be using shortly when we do a new prediction, works in linear time, which is where we live. Hello?
How was your time? It was fine. It was really good.
Okay, wait, who is that?
I'm sorry.
Okay, good. Thank you, Anita. In linear time, where we spend our physical life most of the time, we begin with a tasking statement like this. And I'll show you what the task was for this one. In this case, I didn't put it in there. I just said training practice webinar, but you'll see it shortly. And then all you do is click here, and that'll get you your coordinate, and then you upload your transcript. Then what will come to you in whatever group you're in, we're in the webinar workshop group, whatever group you're in, you will get a actual prediction. A lot of people, if they're in, the wagering and financial group, might actually do what I like to now call investing. If you've got a good hit rate, it's more like an investment. And in this case, the prediction was yes. It was side 2. And we got a hit, as you'll see shortly. The prediction is that yes, Trump will be, and it will be president a year from now. That was what we had actually taken as a prediction. If you remember back over a year, there was all kinds of talk about impeachment and or assassination, but he made it. And that is what we predicted. And then the third thing which goes to the groups are the feedback session. And the comment is, yes, Trump is president. And again, you would click here now to do your feedback session. This is the questions we've done up to date. It actually started with Hillary Clinton, and it was only then we decided why not do this regularly, and APPI picked it up after that. But here's the Trump back in January of 2017, and we had predicted yes, so we got a hit. What we're going to do later is something with Apple stock. So this is just a list of these. Now, the key question, of course, how do I get my feedback target? Well, everything is done via email and the internet, and let me show you. We will do it. So, as I said, you get the information through email, and here is the one where Trump is still president that I showed you, and then all you do is click on it here. Um, you know, you don't have to worry. Some of these numbers are just to keep in the server all the information about one prediction intact. And then what comes up is a screen like this, where each person will actually have most of the time their own individual target. So that's why you have to put in your own individual name. I'm actually representing us on these webinars, so I'll put in my name. And then, speaking of candles, someone said, so this is just like this. This is what you would get. And first reaction, you know, you might name it in this case, but what you really want to get is hot, orange, red, blue. Start reacting to the feedback right away. And then you'd bring in your transcript and start working with the transcript. In fact, right now I'm really getting into hot. And look at that wick. Very interesting. And there's fluid there. So you really pay attention to this. The big three are intention, attention, expectation. Okay, so I did that just as you would do during your session. And whoops, let's go back. What happened here? Okay, so here we are back to there. I just copied that. Now, we're just going to do one transcript. We had about, I don't know, 5 or 6 people, no, maybe more, whatever, do predictions. Some were on the other side, but lower confidence rankings. We'll talk about that shortly. This was a high confidence ranking, and I went and as the group manager, I made the group prediction, and I chose it based really on this transcript because it was so good. I give a lot of weight to the very good transcripts. Now let's see, I was hoping Ramel, he was the one who did this, I was hoping he would come, but he did not, and I was not able to get a hold of him. So we will just make of it, and I think much of it is so obvious. And I remember when he was talking about even a year ago, he said even his ideogram gave the impression of a flame. I can't read these words. I don't know if any of you can read it. I was larger, but here you can see the picture here, okay, which looks very much like this. You can see this, which certainly gives you the sense of a flame. I love sketches because those are all non-intellectual. They come from somewhere deep. But he also wrote flame. I mean, flames. And he indicated it as an analytical overlay. So I thought that was really cool. When he saw this, his mind, his intellect said, it looks like a flame. And he said, active flame. And what did he say here? I think that's moving up. Here he said haze. But when he went over this, it clearly was a 6.5 on the 0 to 7 TARC scale. And he got just a beautiful hit here. Now, this is a typical kind of transcript. You're going to be doing your transcripts later. Notice the coordinate is up here. He does an ideogram or something like a pictogram to start things off. There's a whole kind of art to that, but most people do the coordinate, say it out loud, and then they will sort of spontaneously do something over, 1, 2, 3 seconds. And that gets things going. And then information comes up, you write it down, you get more information, you write it down. At this point, we weren't using, and I want to mention it now because you're going to be doing it shortly, I did not ask people to use this technique where they mark on their transcript and then send to me so I can share with everybody an A for photo site A if it matches that photo, and a B for photo site B if it matches that one. But I will be asking you to do that. Okay, so there's feedback. What Ramel, and I'll play Ramel now, is I'm looking at this and, oh, I'm really happy with this. I would mark it up. Some people go on another sheet of paper and we'll do that one again. I'm just going to do it here. And flame, oh, that was beautiful. That really felt good. And look at that flame. Wow. In fact, now I'm getting into the heat of that flame. I want to send back that image of the flame and the heat of that flame. And oh my, look at the liquid that's there, the fluid. Yes, fluid, lots of fluid. You want to emphasize this picture, and look at the red. I don't know if he got colors. He might have had it in here, but if he didn't, that's a good time for him to teach his subconscious what red feels like, looks like, is experienced down deep. So now I'm trying to communicate through my subconscious to the UCC what red means. So the next time red comes up, it'll come back to me, and in my head will come the word red, the image red. Somehow I'll be motivated to write red down on the sheet of paper. And that's what he would do now. He would write red on this one or a separate sheet of paper, emphasizing it, making it clear that that's what he would like next time. Boy, look how great those circles were. That's marvelous, marvelous. So what you're doing is making a purposeful big deal, if you will, out of the feedback target. This is the truth. This is what he described back here. And even at a 6.5, there's always a little more you can learn. And you use the feedback time for doing that, and for always being positive with your sub, even if you got a terrible one and it was a miss, which happens. Did you push it? This is the time to also do analysis. So you get in an intuitive mode for sure, because you're communicating and you know you're communicating with your sub, but you also are looking for intellectual ways of improving and things of that sort. Feedback session is where it all starts. Now we've talked about the TARG level. Let me go over it now, and then we'll do the prediction shortly. So it's 0 to 7. 0, 1, and 2 go from no correspondence to basically chance. You just get a couple of things. You might have gotten red in that example, and very little else. A vertical line. There were verticals in there, and you'd say, yeah, I got vertical lines, but not much more. And then 3 is a mixture of correct and incorrect, but enough of the correct that you say, you know what? I really feel I did make some psychic connection there. It was more than chance. When it came in, it felt right, and yeah, it was psychic. But there were enough of the incorrect that, this is the one on the margin. Then you get a 4, which is good correspondence with several clearly matchable elements intermixed with some incorrect information. Now, what we do in the WE protocol, Winning Entanglements protocol, that you're going to be doing shortly, is we call a confidence ranking of 3.5 to be wagerable. Now, what's interesting about this is if you put on both of the possibilities less than that, you're giving what is really the third possibility, which is a pass. A pass is a legitimate option. By making the CRs both less than 3.5, the system will remember you as a pass. And then we have a 5 where we bring in, and this is Russ Targs and his group at SRI, they bring in unambiguous, unique matchable elements. You know, stronger. I mean, this is like the sketches, which were those circles, and of course to say flame, which is like a pretty high level analytical overlay type word, but that was certainly an unambiguous, unique matchable element. And then the 6 goes even further. The analytical overlays, this is where your intellect got involved, and yet it was correct. That happens sometimes. Not most of the time, apparently, but some of the time. And when it does happen, that moves you up. Also, of course, getting good correspondence, but now you've got analytical information, maybe you name it. And then the 7 is, well, 6 he says function, 7 he says name, but by a 7 you essentially have no incorrect information. So that's the TARG scale. Any questions? We'll move on to the prediction. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing your comment, Dom. Yeah, Pat's we live in a life which most of the time things only go forward, but in fact, we know the future and the past. It's like there's an eternal now. Everything is available to us in every now. Let's move on and let's do a brand new prediction. Okay, so the new prediction we're going to do, and it was in that spreadsheet I showed you before, which had all of them. Here it is in detail. Will Apple stock, and its symbol is AAPL, be over 170 a month from now, on March 7th, 2018, 1 p.m., when the market closes, Pacific time. This is a chart which goes back 3 months. The prices are here, and you probably can't read it, but the key is that the 170 number is like right here. You know, we've seen rapid falls recently, though Apple started before the big drop in the Dow for whatever reason. But this is the price. 170 is here, 180 is there, 160 is here. So here's 170. So we're asking the question, will it be above 170 on March 7th? So a yes says yes, a no means it'll be down here, and a pass says we don't know. Okay, so I think the question is pretty clear, and it's one which will have a very clear, and that's key in ARV, so that it has to have a clear answer so you'll know which one of the 2 possible targets to associate it with. Okay, so I'm just showing this again. So that's now in my spreadsheet. How do we start? Funny you should ask. So let's do it. Again, email. So I'll go back to my email, training practice, and here is the coordinate. Here is the tasking that I did. In fact, I just did this morning, 25 minutes before we started here. And you can see here I did put in the event, because it'll then show up in a lot of places, will the Apple stock be over 170? And then you simply click here. So I will do that. And you should know we're doing this like live. I haven't the slightest idea what the coordinate will be, but you saw the page that came up. Let me just make it bigger. This is the page that came up. Again, in your groups, you would put in your email address here, obviously, and that's so we keep all the records for you and we can track your history. Again, this is how you can become a Precog Pro, for example, but also it just helps you. All the information is saved in a file which you have access to. So here, webinar workshop is marked, and we're going to be doing one coordinate. Two coordinates I recommend after you get a lot more experience, but we'll do one coordinate today. So you click here, and there it is. There's our coordinate. So on the top of a sheet of paper that's going to be your transcript, you can write, and I'm writing it. I'm not doing a transcript, 519089. And I recommend you say it out loud and write it and pay attention to how it feels. Because think about it, saying it out loud is a type of entanglement because you're going to say it out loud again at feedback time. Okay, now is when we do the transcript, and then we will come back and upload it to the server. But right here, after you've got your coordinate, it's very natural to go and do your transcript. Now, some of you I know will probably already start, the guys who feel very comfortable with this, but for newbies and a reminder, let me just say a few more things. I want to remind you that consciousness is much more fundamental than time. You just want to get into that mindset, no problem hooking up with the feedback target. Right now, you begin setting that intention, expect to get a dynamite session, and we move forward. The kind of words you get are lower level than naming things. Notice in the example, we had a really good example where even flame is naming something which is a complex thing. You know, it's got the temperature, it's got its colors, got the wick in this case. But you know, you'd rather have said things like, well, and I think he did say something like gaseous, and the color's red, and you use lower level ones most of the time. That tends to be what comes up with sketches. Some people do more words, some people do more sketches. Doesn't matter. Whatever comes up from your subconscious, which is coming up from the UCC, is what you put on your transcript. This big three, intention, attention, expectation, just is so true. And intention, yeah, I'm going to do a good one. Expectation, I expect to do a good one. Like you expect, you sort of take it for granted, like you expect the sun to come up tomorrow. It's got a different feeling than intention, but you want that in your consciousness, and then you want to pay a lot of attention to what your consciousness is doing and picking up what it's giving you. And this big three was put out by Joe McMonagle, probably the best public viewer out there, and Ed May, who is a scientist that spent a lot of time with this stuff going back to the SRI days till now. He's still working as a scientist in this field. And he says what is clear, at least to most of us on our long-established team, is that intention, attention, and expectation play a very important role in application and research. Okay. So you're going to intend to describe and sketch your 519089 feedback target and expect that. So on a sheet of paper, and this is one I'd be happy to send to anybody, but it's kind of a typical model, but people do it their own way, but this is where you might at the top, you should put the coordinate, target reference number it is sometimes called, because that's what it is attached to. And then you put the name, the date, the time. I like to emphasize saying it out loud. And then when you start, after we do, it's called a cool down. You'll do a coordinate again, maybe an ideogram, a pictogram, again saying it out loud. And then what might come, everybody's a little bit different, are these big picture kind of gestaltish things. Um, and some sketches, and then places over here for the different kinds of words that might be related to textures or colors or smells or tastes or dimensions, the size of things. Is it moving also? Sounds, well, here's dynamics, temperatures and feelings, all the kinds of things which your nervous system can report to you. And that's what you do after you get quiet. So we're getting ready. You kind of loosen up a little bit. You know your cue. Describe and sketch your 519089 feedback target. The cool down is very important. Joe thinks it is a major fraction, even at one point said 75% of the discipline, because that's when you get rid of all the extraneous things and you get in touch with the subconscious and the UCC and the feedback target. Now, what I'm about to do now is turn on a hemisync, and I will make it louder. It's 10 minutes total, and roughly half, everybody's a little bit different, for the cool down, where you just get yourself in a nice place where you're a witness for the information. And then half for doing your session. You're setting your intention, expectation, and witnessing what your sub provides. There will be a 5-minute notice and a 1-minute notice in there. They're relatively quiet. I'll probably give you a 1-minute notice verbally. And let me do it now. So I should be able to click on this. So begin. You have about a minute to go. Okay. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another in our APPI Learn by Doing series. Wait, I need, hold on. Doing done before, because to recognize mission begins with the feedback. However, sorry, this is the next video. I need to take care of that. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that overlap. Okay, probably helped you get back into your normal intellectual state, which is where I hope you are now. We're about to do the judging. Did any of you hear the hemisync sound? Someone said they did not hear it. Was it out there or not? Let me know. I've set things up so everything will go just to me. Did anybody hear or not? Did not get hemisync? No. Okay. Okay, well, that's a problem. I'll have to look into that. You know, I muted my mic. I wonder if that even muted the sound coming. You're all hearing me now, obviously. Okay. Yeah, you're hearing me now, Danilo, but did you get the hemisync before? No. Okay. Okay, I'll have to take that. As I say, this is my first one here. Okay, let's move on. We're going into the judging session now. And what I really would like each of you to do is on your transcript. Sometimes when you're doing this on your own, you may not want to mark up your transcript, but certainly for now, let's do it that way. On your transcript, I'm going to want you to mark what matches for each of the two possible targets. And that'll help you with the judging. But let's just briefly, and we'll get to those shortly. But the judging is something which takes a little experience. And let me show you what it's not. In some ways, that helps you get what it is. Here's a skeptic talking to our remote viewer, and he says, I alone know the contents of this envelope. And he remote views a charcoal drawing of a woodchuck eating a small orange. Okay, pretty specific, pretty high level naming woodchuck, but you know, this is a joke. Nice try, you little fraud, but that's a long way from an ink drawing of a beaver eating a tangerine. The point being, ink drawing is awful close to charcoal drawing. and of course beaver and woodchuck and small orange and tangerine. The point is that metaphors, analogies, likes, that's one of the words people use a lot, like this, like that, similarities, uh, give credit for those, but to a point. And that's where the art of this is. You know, you can't push it too far. You have to have the sense that indeed it's psychic. Okay, so um, that's the thing with the judge. And when we're about to do it, marketing on your transcript, and I'd like you to use um, this approach. Okay, which really is an idea from Joe McMonagle. Some people will just use TARG straight and mark up and count the number of matches for each one. But Joe has pointed out, and I believe properly so, that these first impression gestalts, you know, the thing I pointed out, hot, rising, liquid, round, in that candle example, um, ought to be 50% of the weight. And what is this first impression gestalt? It's that first thing you get. It smacks you in the face, you know, it gets you in the ballpark. Um, and there can be more than one um, first impression. Okay, and then 50% of the weight goes to what was the more standard approach, which is what I'd like you to do on your transcript once I show you the two choices, which is to mark an A next to each element or precept that you got in your transcript that came from your sub, or a B, depending on which one it matches. And then you count up those versus total number of elements, and you get a fraction. And then the arithmetic is really very simple. Since you give a 0 to 1 for the fig, how good did you do on the first impressions? You give a 0 to 1 for the AB element approach, and you do this, of course, for each of the two. And basically, then this would add up to 2, so you divide by 2 and then multiply by 7. But really, you just add up these numbers and you can multiply by 3.5, and that will give you a confidence ranking. And then, you know, you can look at the TARG and see if it seems reasonable to you. Here's a graph that I'm happy to send to everybody. Some people like the graph, 0 to 2, but very straightforward. Okay, let's do it. So we have to go back now. Remember the last thing we did in terms of the prediction was this. You have your transcripts. It wasn't that one. It was this one. This is where you got your coordinate, both there and it's listed here. And now what you would do is upload, and most people comfortable uploading things to their computer and then attaching them. But here you would simply upload it to our server. What I am going to do is upload. So, you know, you go into your computer. What I'm going to do is upload just a dummy because it's not real. I did not do a session. Okay, what happened? There it is. Okay, so it will then put in here what you upload, and then you click submit. Now, be ready. As soon as I click submit, you're now you're in your mostly intellectual mode. There's some intuition about how far to push it and things like that, but it's at, you know, 90% at least intellectual. And so I will now click it, and there we go. So there are two different approaches that people like to use, and it becomes personal. Some like to go through and take their transcript and just look at photo site A and mark all the matches on A and look for the gestalts associated with A, and then go down and look at photo site B. So that was why I separated them like that here. But on the sheet, they will both show up like this, and then your job is to rank these, and I'll make them bigger, using the 0 to 7 scale. So ultimately, you'll come up with the 0 to 7 for photo site A, the 0 to 7 for photo site B. You'll put in these comments, which are saved, your thoughts and feelings about it. You hit click, and then we're done. But right now, start with your transcript and mark everything that matches A. And if it's marginal, you might use a small a. And when you count up, you might give that half a point because you're going to see there are going to be some judgments involved with that. And what I will do while you're doing that, and I know that's going to take you a while, and this is very important. Remember, the action on this comes from what you're doing right now. In fact, let me do that this way. And now let me get. And then what I'm going to want you to do is send to me, and I've set this up so whatever you send will come just to me because I don't want anybody else. I want this to be totally independent. Send to me something which is as simple as CRA, or even if you want, you can just say A equals, and then a number, and then CRB equals, and the number between 0 to 7. And then I will be making a table of everybody's, and then we'll look at that and we'll talk about it, and I'll make a group prediction. So once you put the CRA and CRB on your transcript someplace, and then attach it to an email to me. Okay, Dom, I see you say which one it matches mostly. See if you can understand and come up with a TAR confidence level for it. And I would expect that number to be higher for B than A. And let me see, let me put the TARG up. So that was when I copied it, but I have others here. Hopefully I have the TARG one. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go back and get the TARG one. I'm sorry, I have to do that through here. Okay.
That's way too much. Yeah, it's 325.
There's, you should see A now. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a less than usual, but not okay. No pasta from there. No, no pasta from there. Not from there, no.
okay. God, I'm sorry that took so long. Oh, that's not the one I want. Damn
Yeah.
it. Okay.
No, he won't eat that.
So there's Targ. And just keep doing your judging. Send me the CRA, CRBs, and then
I'm
upload
gonna
your
make
transcript.
him. For who? Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, thank you, Lila.
You okay?
Well, who's okay? Gabriella, I'm going to mute you. Don't use the website. Once you've done your judging on your transcript, send it to me. Yeah, see, some people are good. And then Gabriella, it looks like you sent an email, but I didn't. Would you send me in the chat box your CR so I can put it in the table? I want to give people a little bit more time before I start looking at them so they can concentrate on the judging. Yeah, I will, Patricia, when we get to the emails. We'll all see. No, Dome, there's no website involved in this at this point. When you're doing it in one of the groups, then you'll use the website. For now, well, I would like you to judge your transcript against the two possible targets, the two photo sites you see, and give me 0 to 7s for A and a 0 for 7 for B. So that's the next thing to do, is to send in the chat box an A and a number and a B and a number. Okay, thank you, Catherine. Okay, those of you who are not done judging, please keep judging. Give it as much time as it takes to do so you feel really good about it. Too often at feedback time, people will say, I can't believe I missed that, that sort of thing. And that's the learning that goes on. That's a good thing, not a bad thing, but it makes sense to take the time that it takes to do it so you feel good about it. Okay. Okay, so I'm now going to look at a transcript. And let's see. So this is, okay. Okay, this is, okay, you sent the transcript. I'd like to wait, Danilo. Are you going to send me, oh yeah, it's down here with the rankings. I think that's this one. Let's see. No, that must have been the same one. Ah, yes, okay, good. We'll do that. Okay, so we have our first, let's see, let me get rid of this old one. I just got too many things open. Our first comparison here. I don't, okay, you have a mic? So we can,
Yes.
okay, very good. So we can
Hi.
talk about this. Hi. Um, um, let's see. So it's just quick look. It's clear you got a lot more B's. 1, 2. You didn't try to do the analytics or go
Yeah,
to
you see it on the second page.
perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. So let me see. Okay, so I don't know what the 4 and the 1 are, but okay, let's just
So this is the ranking.
that was the
Yeah.
CRs. Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
very good. Um, and it's a 4 for a B. Let me just put that
Yeah.
in the table here, and a 1 for A. And looking at this, yes, all the circles. That's certainly good. They certainly match there very nicely. Um, and in some ways it's good. Why don't you talk us through some of it, sort of, quickly, but you might have had impressions which might not have gotten in here. So certainly you got this, and this was the first thing you got,
Yes.
which was
Yes.
really
This
good.
I had the impression of multiple circles with a lot of colors
Yeah.
and
Oh,
some dark out of the circle dark shapes.
right. Do I see colors? Yes. Red,
Yeah.
cyan,
Then
right.
I thought that it's a view from above,
Uh,
biologic, alive,
wow.
multiples, open, humid, public, nature.
Right. Very nice. And then you went to a page 2.
Yeah. Then I had this first shape where I wrote B,
Uh-huh.
and then a second one where I had a perception of something in the middle, and then something going from the center to outside.
Right.
And
Okay.
then different levels, different types of land.
Right. Which were your A.
Yeah.
This, I don't know. Yeah. It was really interesting though, because these two are quite different in the sense of the sharp angles and all that, and you never picked up. The closest you came to that was here.
Yeah.
So that was very good. Okay. Yeah. 4. I don't know. It might have even been higher, 4.5, had you gone through the arithmetic. Um, because I'd say you definitely got the gestalts.
Mm-hmm.
The alive biological is really good.
Yeah.
So had you given this certainly a 4.5, there'd be no arguments. A 5 might even have come out if you had done the arithmetic. I don't know. Anyway, excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, let me look in. Okay, Anita, thank you. Let me put you in the table here. Okay. And then Gabriella, I've got. So let's go to the email and let's get the next one. So there's Lila. Okay, so this gets a little bit harder to turn, but let me turn it, Lila, for you. Oh. I wish there were a faster way of doing this, and maybe sometime I'll come up with one, but right now, this is the only way I know. I can turn this around. I can rotate. And I think that's correct. Okay, wait, but I have to paste it in something. Okay. I'm gonna copy. And I think I have to open up. Let me open up. Notepad won't take it. Where's my Word? Okay. Okay. I know. You'll give me some space here. Okay, Lila, very nice. Let's see, what were your CRs? There they are, 2 and 3. Yep, I've got those. Okay. Go ahead and you want to just quickly
Sure.
summarize?
Well,
yeah, that's certainly good.
Yeah, that was the very first thing that I drew.
Yeah.
Was that shape there.
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, even a circle within a circle for one of
them. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I don't think I've ever drawn that shape before.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt that was very important. And then the next one, yeah, that one.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting as well.
Yep.
It clearly describes the peacock.
Well, the feathery part.
Feathers,
for sure.
Yes.
That's really very good.
But the interesting thing is I didn't get the colors.
Oh, and you usually get colors?
I usually get colors. I get really good dynamics usually. But shimmering is important because that's what peacock feathers do. They shimmer.
Mm-hmm.
You're iridescent. So so that's pretty much why I went with B. I didn't feel like I touched A hardly at all.
Right. But you didn't feel it was strong enough for 3.5, which is fine.
No, I really didn't. I feel like actually with my last 4 or 5 well, at least 3 or 4 sessions, I feel like I can't make a decision. I
Mhm,
feel like I'm in a little slump. And I just said, well, okay, I'm in an ebb,
mhm.
just not in a flow. So, and this is after I got 6 in a row hits. And
We see
I think
that
that
a lot.
scared me.
Lila, we see that. We see that a lot. And Joe
Yeah,
McMonagle has a one-liner that summarizes it so well. It's all psychological.
I know. I
And you know,
know.
you get to 6. Oh my God, could I be 100%er? Oh, what would that mean? Da, da, da. And some of that is conscious, some of that is subconscious because you know you've got stuff in you that
Sure.
won't allow you to be near perfect, and you have to learn how to handle misses. And I guess that's what you're going through. But I look at this,
Yeah.
just so you know, and I if you had given this a 3.5, I could not. Again, look at the gestalt. I mean,
Sure.
you
Sure.
just, you
I
just,
could give it a
found that.
3.5. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 But you were worried, and I
So,
understand it,
okay.
and thank you for sharing that because that's very, you know, very normal.
Okay.
In fact, we have someone, in fact, Gabriella, who is here, found that a lot of people, after getting 5, a high percentage of them will get misses. So you made it to 6.
Yes.
So you're not alone.
Well,
Okay.
the sixth one was actually a pass, but I did choose on the side and I got a hit, but it was a
Okay.
pass. So anyway, I counted as a hit.
Okay, that's
Thank
interesting.
you. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so let's see what I have to do here. There's something going on here. Do you want to save the changes? You know what? I'm just going to cancel this because I probably need it again. So let's get rid of that one. And let's go to the next email. Okay, let's see, Patricia. Okay, you gave me words and you tried a transcript. For some reason, yep, nope. Patricia, and there, I mean, I know it looks right at her end and it doesn't come off on my end. I know it's frustrating. So let's just use your words, okay? In fact, I'm glad I have this open so we can use your words right there. Okay. A, you got 6, B, 12. Good, 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 good. Okay. You didn't use the most important giveaway. Okay, that's what gave you. Okay, so you did a good drawing. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about the drawing? Patricia, you should be able to turn off your mic. I should be able to do it too, but you know, I want everybody to learn how to do it on their own. Okay, I'll do it. Okay, so can you tell us about the drawing? Or maybe you don't have a mic. Okay. Can you put in the text box maybe here? In fact, I'm going to get it so everyone can see it, not just me. Are you still there, Patricia? Huh. Okay, well, let's look at what she has here. She gave B a 5, metallic, lightness. Well, she got 12 out of 17. So obviously her transcript, I mean, because man-made goes with the other. Lightness, energy, cosmic paint, static, floating, sign, poster. Yeah, she probably had to leave. We've been into this. Okay. But Patricia, I've got you down here. Patricia. You know, making the group predictions, which is largely on me, is really part of a long-term experiment that we're doing to see if we can get data for a month. Most of the formal scientific data is for under 2 weeks. In fact, I think there's very little out to 2 weeks, but there was a little. So we're trying to go a month. Okay, and let's do Catherine. Huh. You know, I just thought of something that might be faster. No. Okay, let's just do it this way. Here we go. And I will rotate.
Hello?
Yep, hello?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's just that I was trying to unmute my mic and then just got me out of the meeting. So I don't know. Sorry.
Oh, okay, Patricia. Let, let, hang in there, well, because I would like to hear what you have to say about your drawing, because the words didn't match up with the 5, at least in my opinion.
I know, but I can explain that.
Exactly. I think that would be useful for everybody, including you.
So
Let me.
we will. Are we going to do it after this?
No, we'll do it now.
transcript,
I just want to finish this, and I'll put this after you. Okay, so I should be able to get rid of that, and that, and here you are, and I'll put this picture below that.
Yeah, well, when
Okay.
I saw both pictures, I was like, oh, where was I? But then when I focus on, like those eyes and the peacock feathers,
Oh, and the
that's
feathers.
exactly what I got. It's just that I saw it like a cosmic paint, like when you have in a paint all those planets. I got those colors. I got exactly that shape. So when I pay more attention to my drawing than the words I wrote, I got, oh, this is it. That's what I was seeing,
Which
because
shape? I just want to understand.
somehow my thing, those, in the peacock, those like eyes,
Right
the
here.
circles, yeah, all those circles.
Here
And
or
I got, yeah,
no, the
those.
eyes. Okay.
No, not the eyes of the peacock. I mean, on the
The
feathers.
okay, you got a bunch of
All
circles and circle in
Yes,
circles.
it's circles inside circles, and then like the
Interesting.
feathers.
Very nice.
But I thought it's something cosmic. I thought, oh, this might be planets or something like space
Right.
related. And then I figured it out because when I saw the pictures, I thought, oh my God, I'm totally lost here. But when I pay attention to my drawing and then I saw the feathers of the peacock, all those, I mean, I don't know, my subconscious just thought about planets, about something cosmic, But
No, that was
then,
your intellect. We call that's you just gave the perfect example of analytical overlay. In other
yeah,
words, you saw the circles and learn to remember that feeling, because that's one of the things you can learn when it's coming more from the intellect and your thinking mind as opposed to the subconscious.
yeah. But the drawing is exactly, I mean,
Right.
it,
That's terrific.
those circles inside the circles and the colors, I think I got the colors right. That's why I gave 5 to.
Okay. Sounds very reasonable. Very good, Patricia. We have to get you so you can upload your transcripts, because I would like
I
to see
know,
it.
but I swear to you, I send them and I don't know, because I would love for you to see the drawing, and
Yes.
then it will
Yes.
make sense.
Next time we do it, maybe what I'll do is there is a way of getting it so I can see your computer. So if you've uploaded it to your computer, we can
Uh-huh.
see it all from there. Maybe we'll do that next time for you.
Yeah.
And we'll see how
Okay.
long that takes.
I'm not a tech savvy though, so
Yeah. But you do have it on your computer. So you can see it on your computer screen?
no, I'm with my iPad and I have it in my iPad. So but I can
It might
next time
work
I'll
on the
try to
iPad.
use.
No, it might work on the iPad. I see. That's the problem. That's why we're having a problem. It's the iPad. From
Yeah.
cell phones and iPads, it doesn't always work. Okay, anyway, thank you. That was really,
Yeah.
and you were the second one. You know, we talk about gestalts, and you can see two of you picked up circles within circles. So that's kind of cool. Okay, Catherine. Let me see if I can make this even a little bigger. Let's see. Yep, I've got, oh,
We have to read the bottom.
And you know, I was almost going to text this to you. Catherine gave her very low marks. Yep, you got the blue, a pass for sure. But I want you to know, don't feel the least bit bad about that.
Well, I'm amazed that I came, and when I saw the picture, I thought, oh, that's it. And those are actually kind of waves.
Yeah.
But this was after, because I thought you were going to make a sound when it was time to come out of the cool down. So I was gone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a low sound. Yeah, I don't say anything at 5 minutes.
I'm going to set my timer. This is my first try. And so the other funny thing is that the wet and in the water was that I was telling myself at the beginning of the cool down to just calm down and jump in the water.
Well, but let me tell you, congratulations for your first. Really, because
it's not bad. I'm pleased.
Yeah, because the blue is really good, and even wavy.
Yeah.
You know, wavy fits too. If you had given that a B, wet is for neither.
That was me.
Yeah. Anyway, congratulations, and
Thank you.
And you know, you did it. You got experience at it, and that's just keep doing it. And you'll just get better and better at it.
Great. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, good. Gabriella. Oh, you got it online here or this one? Put on your mic, Gabriella. Let me see if that's.
Yeah, it should be on there attached.
Oh, okay. Oh, attached, not that link.
No, not the link, the attachment.
Okay, no problem. I wish I didn't always have to rotate these.
Oh, there's an icon that you can use to rotate them.
Where?
I can't see your screen yet. I think there's a delay on my iPad. There's two triangles.
In here?
Above.
Office picture?
In the office picture.
Two triangles, got it. Oh, right here. Oh, look at that. Well, thank you for that.
Sure.
Okay, that comes from Office Pictures. So, yeah, not all of them came that way. Here. Okay, obviously I need to bring up that. And then we'll move that over. I'll make this just a little bit. Okay, tell us what you got here.
Well, I got
5 and a 1.5.
Yeah, my match was to A.
Right.
And I got all of the colors. So what I do with colors are I do it twice. I go through the colors to see which ones are there. The first time it's like more pure colors, and then the second time it's kind of related to colors. So
Right.
Blue and black are in both pictures,
Both.
really.
Yeah, yeah.
And then close to orange is in A.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's the way you had to describe it. Okay, cool.
And then close to gray. There's
Yeah.
like the even the grass, where the grass would be, that's not even green. It's kind of more gray. So,
Yeah.
and there aren't really many more colors that I don't even see any colors that I missed. I mean, white, I guess, in the sky, but
Yeah. White.
so it,
But your AOL, the tree.
I guess,
trees back there, yeah.
yeah, there's a tree, right?
And sky. Now, you AOL them after you did this? When did the AOL
As I was drawing things.
drawing this? Because I noticed something you did not do. I mean, again, look at the circles. You didn't put one B next to those circles,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
I mean, would you now? You know, if you go back and judge it again, would you put B's next to that?
I don't know. Not really, because the lines are just kind of to texturize it to show that it wasn't defined. It was more like when I drew it, it was more like that's where the cloud is, but
Yeah.
that's where there's something there, but I didn't really.
Okay. But you see, if these were truly AOLs, and that was certainly your feeling, so
Right.
this will be really interesting to pay attention to this when we get the feedback. You know, we'll just remember this conversation, because if I were an independent judge, I would give credit for this and this and that. And this here.
Yeah, I see the hatch marks in the A, but.
Yeah, and even right. And
It wasn't what I saw when I was drawing it, though.
No, I
When I
understand.
was,
And you were right to do it just the way you did it. And it'll be interesting to see.
Right.
Yeah, kind of like that too. But see, even here. So, okay. And you gave because of such good matches with the AOL,
right.
You gave A a 4.5. Okay, good. Thanks.
Sure.
Oh, I take it back. I don't want to get rid of my. Well, let's see if I need it around. It looks like I might have gotten rid of the Word doc. Okay, let's go to the email again. And we did Patricia. Okay, Anita. A 6 and a 4. Oh, look how easy that is. Very nice.
Looks like Rick had a question about why you would give credit to the circle.
To the
the circles,
thank you for
or he said, yeah.
Yeah. Well, because the circles is like a major gestalt here.
Right.
This is circle-like, so that's why when someone did circles, and we saw two other people who did even circles within circles.
Yeah, and it wasn't to take away points from the other thing, but it was just the score of the photosite.
Oh yeah, no, all that would do would be to increase the B score. Yeah, it would do nothing to take away from the A score. Correct. especially the way you described it. That was your feeling, including even the clouds. So, well, that's good. Okay, so here we are. Anita, good, you got your mic. Why don't you take us through, in fact, a 6 is, really good. Take us through how you came to a conclusion of a 6. Is your mic working? I see it there. Okay, Anita, I hope you're still with us. 6s, of course, are really good. Okay, so she gave an 8 who looks cloud-like, an 8 a block-like, certainly makes sense. I don't know what she saw there with an A, but A was her second one. Okay, so there's a B again, lots of circles. Where did she see circles here? Maybe the clouds. There aren't very many circles, but the circles certainly go for a B. Yep, that's an A. Orange and vanilla. Well, pink, blue, green, white. A. Vehicle. Okay, again. Okay, so in fact, sometimes when I get something like this, just like I said, you can make a little A if it's sort of marginal, but yeah, you want to count it because you think, in fact, it was psychic, a precept from your subconscious. If something is really good, I'll give it a big B. And so both of these are obviously supportive of the circle-like things we're saying here. Face, people. Okay, well, CRA. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, good. She actually, and it's true, in terms of the gestalts, she gave a 1 to photosite A as a gestalt, and a 0.75 because there wasn't anything else but the circles. Interesting. And yet, well, not and yet, she got 18 A's, 12. She used the formula and she came up with 6 for A and a 4 for B. So both wagerable, but higher on 6, I would say, because especially early, all of the rectangular stuff. Do I see a big A anywhere? Structure. Well, just so you know, judging in a very real sense, having seen so many people do all phases of this, the judging is the most difficult. You look here, and I'm not the world's best judge, but you can understand. Let me just explain the conflicts that are going on. In terms, I don't see now. Maybe there's structure or, well, yes, she's got building. Yep, she's got building right there. Okay. But this is such a big gestalt. She obviously went to both, but I can't fault. I mean, you look at this and they're, rectangles all over the place. I mean, that was obviously one of the points of the person who put this together was a contrast between structure, rectangular things, and circles. Unfortunately, she got them both, but that's represented as strong. Okay, well, Anita, if you're just listening and not wanting to talk, that's fine. And I thank you. I can't fault it. Well, I can't ever fault anything anybody does, but I mean, I can't suggest that you should change the CRs or anything. Okay. Okay, very good. So these have not been saved. That was it. Let me bring over here because this is now the next step. And this is going to be very difficult. I have always in the past marked with yellow. Why am I having trouble? Okay. Okay, let me do it this way. And here, here, here. Okay, the over 3.5s. The 3.5s I usually give a gray to take notice of them, but don't give as much weight. We have 3. Oh, the 2 obviously is not right. And you must always correct me. I count on you to correct me. But we've got 3 on this side, 2 on this side, but with a 6. And the other thing I look at is separation. Now notice these are separated by 3, this by 3.5. The 6 is only separated by 2. And that's why you always judge the 2 independently, because that says she got stuff on both sides. It's always considered, and we have data on this from all the people who have done this, it's considered stronger when you have a bigger separation. Well, I suppose I should pass. There was the 6 using the formula. Well, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do this as a group pass leaning toward B, photosite B, because of separations. And so I'm actually going to then, I'll write that as my notes down here. What would you guys do? Huh? What would you do? Now, let me say one other thing before you answer. Each of you should go, if you're going to do anything, in your own way. There's no obligation to go with the group at all. You need to trust yourself. So Gabriella, with both the spread, if there were any wagering to be done on this, and it's a difficult one to wager on, you know, we're really not doing this with wagering in mind. You would think 4.5, and you, Anita, would do 6. But you, Danilo, and Patricia would definitely expect the B to come up. And this is typical, where we get some people going each way. Yeah, it's 2 and 2. Does anybody want to comment on that? Because I am going to make it a pass. And I'm going to do that by giving them both, I think, 4s. Well, maybe even 4.5s. In other words, what that shows is that there was, from the group perspective, that there was good information on both sides, but I didn't think it was dominant. And Danilo, for you, you see it as a B. And for you personally, that's exactly right. You know, you had a good session. And again, if it was a wagerable thing, that would be what you would do. Okay. Okay, so most of you agree with the pass. By making these the same, notice if they were both below 3.5, it would be a pass also. But if they're the same, it's a pass. And that's good to remember, because sometimes you might have one, you judge them independently, and one's a um, uh, 4.5 and the other is a 5. And you say, you know what, I think I better pass. And so you make them both 4.5s or 5s. Okay, so now it's going to be a pass, but we will know, and that's it. So we put in that, you click submit, again for the people who haven't done this, and notice it says a pass, it prints out everything that you did, so just confirms that. But it also will let you know that while this was randomly, and this is the first time anybody but a computer has seen this, that photosite A was randomly associated with no, and photosite B was randomly associated with yes. Again, all of this, we do everything to keep everything as blind as possible. The two photosites were blind, and this was blind. Okay, very good. Any comments about this part of what we've just done? And if not, I will come over somebody is talking here. Oh, that's on the phone. Okay. So let me find. That's the snipping tool. I need to just find my PowerPoint. It's over there. Bring it here. Okay, so we just did the new prediction stuff. And let me just wrap this up now. And we did the judging. So I tend to show the next two all the time, but I can't think of a better way of ending this and just sort of summarize everything that's going on. You are the creator of your precognition. You do the remote viewing. You do the feedbacking. I mean, that's really is precognitive telepathy. And the fact that something that marvelous can happen connects up with everything I said earlier, because it's all in the UCC. I mean, as a remote viewer, you know, this looks like you're doing regular mental stuff, but of course you're not. The remote viewer is going down into a sub, going into the UCC. Feedbacker does that, happens to be later, but the UCC doesn't care about that. It connects all of that up. And then we get these marvelous precognitive sessions. I mean, you have to understand that the good sessions we saw on both sides were precognitive. Nobody saw either of those pictures. Nobody, and it was chosen randomly by a computer. It's just marvelous. We live in a marvelous universe, and it really does have wonderful mystery about it. All the psi stuff that we see, but I think precognition is one of the most telling, if you will, because it shows that time is not like we think of it, that there's a place like the UCC where you can truly be outside of time. And having said that, what that also shows is that your present life experiences are influenced by, entangled with your future life experiences. Just like here, you are entangled with the future. Well, you can use that. You can use that in particular for health, wealth, and hopefully everything you're doing is making you wiser. But the health, which is the I think really the important one is getting down deep into this place which is outside of space and time and feeling healthier, okay? And like in meditations, you just get yourself to feel healthier, and that will affect your physical body because they're both entangled. And that will be your intention, and make that your expectation as you're doing it. And then the wealthy. Now, wealthy is a real interesting one because wealth is actually originally defined in a way which is really beautiful because it comes from the word wheel, which includes sharing what has made you abundant, sharing it with others. Well, look, the UCC is attached to everything. Sharing it is the most natural thing in the world to do. And then wisdom, yeah, let's, we all want to become wiser and deeply appreciate this wonderful universe that we live in, this universe which really is built on consciousness. Okay, thank you. That's the end of my formal plan for the webinar. If there are questions and comments, feel free to turn on a mic and ask, or chat box or whatever. Okay, then I will just end this now, and thank you all for joining us all here. And I just have to figure out how to get out of Zoom. Which I should do right here. Keep precogging.